You're listening to Film Seizure. Before we get started, just a word of caution. This is a pretty R-rated show, so if you're listening at work or school or around your kids or grandparents, or hell, church for that matter, you might want to put some headphones on. Catch new episodes every other Wednesday on filmseizure.com and follow us on Facebook at Film Seizure and Twitter and Instagram at Film Seizure, all one word. But for now, if you're all set, then let's sit back and enjoy a couple of grade A assholes sit around and talk about movies.
This is my movie, and this is my life.
You know, Greg, you and me, we're all the same.
Oh yeah, how's that?
We both have this dream.
That we'll be famous.
Yeah, I guess we do.
You have a malevolent presence. You are a perfect villain.
I could see you as Dracula, Frankenstein.
I'm not Frankenstein. I'm hero.
Hello and welcome to Film Seizure. I'm Geoff Arbuckle.
Hey, I'm Jason Oliver.
And welcome to our very first episode of our little show here.
Episode numero uno.
Numero uno.
Pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited.
There's the cackle I promised. I already got one.
Yeah, already got one there. Last week you heard our episode 0, which we talked a little bit about what this show is going to be like. If you didn't hear that, or don't feel like going back, I wouldn't blame you. I'd be too lazy to go back myself. Although I'm also like OCD enough to, I would have gone back and listened. This little podcast was kind of born out of some bad movie nights,
Yep.
which is kind of interesting. It's part of a story I have to tell about one of the movies we're going to talk about today. But we thought it would be fun just to have a little show to share our thoughts, kind of express our artistic side a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, you know, a creative outlet for a couple movie lovers, right? It's kind of what this is. And, you know, we're talking about good, bad, and ugly movies is pretty much the idea here. With also kind of an emphasis, I think, on a nostalgia angle and also kind of like really dig it into the film franchises of our youth, particularly like movies that just have way too many sequels and that we probably haven't even seen yet, but that we're going to subject ourselves to, right?
Yeah, and I think that, you know, I mean, some of those things, like what we're going to talk about in this very first episode, is all about the things that we discovered later as we started to really kind of embrace more ridiculous things and actually seek out more ridiculous things. But do you want to kind of talk about what we are going to discuss here in this episode?
Yeah. So this is kind of a late edition. We decided to make this our number one because we had the opportunity to recently see an in-theater screening of The Room in preparation for the release of The Disaster Artist, which we also got a chance to see about a week early. So we thought, you know what, that kind of fits the tone of this blog pretty well, or this podcast pretty well. Let's talk about those two movies. Now, we know The Room has been talked about to death. Everybody has talked about The Room and how awful it is, how wonderfully awful it is, how unwatchably watchable it is. I mean, there's not a whole lot we can add there, but we'll try. And I think by talking about it in the context of this new thing, this movie about the making of the movie, I think we'll bring a little bit of interesting discussion to light.
Yeah, and I will say right out of the gate, when it comes to this movie, to The Room, I thought Brie Larson was fantastic in it. Wait,
what?
Did we watch the wrong movie?
We watched the wrong movie.
Oh shit!
Well, what are we going to talk about?
There you go. There's an overused joke right there. The difference between Room and The Room. So I want to tell a little bit of a story about The Room and how I kind of fell in love with this horrifically tragic movie. So back in about 2009, 2010, on April Fool's Day, and I think it was actually like at midnight
on, like 12 a.m. April 1st, Adult Swim showed this movie, and they didn't tell anybody. They didn't have it listed in their listing, and it was only until like the commercial breaks that they would talk about their April Fool's Day prank of showing 2003's The Room. And I think by this time, Tommy Wiseau was probably already on the Tim and Eric show.
Yeah.
And so when I saw him, I kind of recognized it, and I knew that they were spoofing something. And it wasn't until I saw The Room that I was like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, and word was already starting to kind of spread that,
yeah.
hey, this is the train wreck you can't miss.
Right.
Yeah.
And so so I watched this one, and I was like just engaged. Like I was in it, man. I was like, I set the DVR for like the replay. I watched it. Like I probably ended up watching it like 4 or 5 times, like within a week of it first. And I'm just engrossed in this. And I'm like, what is this? What is this strange man? What is this thing that's going on here?
Well, he might be a vampire.
He might be a vampire. Who knows? But so I immediately got it into my queue onto Netflix. I was very lucky. I got it like almost right away. And I burned a copy of it, and I brought it over to your place for our first ever bad movie night.
Yeah,
It was our it was our like crown jewel of the night. It was
Yeah,
like,
what did we watch that night? We watched Biker Boys.
no,
Wasn't it a Biker Boys? The
it was
Legend.
Torque,
Oh, Torque.
because it was the Adam Scott.
Yes, we watched Torque. We watched Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li. Which, holy shit! If you haven't seen that, go rush to see that.
There's only one movie that can beat that one.
Oh, and then
that
the
was
room.
The Room.
Then it was The Room. Yeah.
And it was such kind of a transformative thing for me, because I don't think until then I really truly understood how much I enjoyed watching trash. And not necessarily just trash, but like like
Garbage. Flaming dumpsters of garbage.
Well, no, I mean like guilty pleasure type
Yeah.
stuff. I mean like, I could watch the Oscar winner from whatever year, but it's also kind of fun just to watch a Friday the 13th movie,
Yeah.
or it's just kind of fun to watch, jeez.
Well,
Ca-
schlock.
any
It's like
movie
mindless
in the 80s.
schlock that is there to entertain.
Yeah, exactly.
Its whole purpose for existence is to entertain.
Yeah.
Now, but there's levels of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, here's my thing with The Room, and I think that again, this is something that's been kind of over discussed, but the art of an enjoyable bad movie, right?
Right.
So a movie, and my feeling on this, and I think it's a fairly popular opinion, is that the best bad movies, the ones that are the most fun to watch, are the ones that are sincere.
Yes.
The ones that were made with the lofty intentions, right?
Yeah, whether they're trying to say something like Birdemic, or they're just trying to emulate something like an action movie like Samurai Cop. The problem is once you start getting into sequels,
Yeah.
when people have caught on,
self-awareness. Yeah.
they become too self-aware. And I mean, Samurai Cop 2 is.
Yeah, and
Speaking of Tommy Wiseau, he's in that, but oh my god.
Oh yeah, see that's just too much, right?
Yeah.
You're too aware of what you're trying to do, and it
Right.
feels forced. The jokes feel forced. The whole thing just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, and but like this movie's trying to say something, and that's what's bonkers about it, because and we'll talk about it when we get to the Disaster Artist, but this really does feel like a first draft. The Room seems like a first draft type of movie.
I mean, he wrote his version of a Tennessee Williams play. Is what Tommy Wiseau did. He saw Streetcar Named Desire a few times.
Yeah.
And loved the emotion and the passion, of the performances, and wanted to write that movie, and wanted to be Brando.
Right. And
Or James Dean, one of the two.
Yeah. So yeah, and the funny thing is about it, it's like, I have always said that like every single frame, person, line, everything is utterly hypnotic. Like I can't not watch it once I start watching it. I mean, like it's like you seriously cannot look away from the movie. And I read some comments today on a page that I follow on Facebook that there were people who were just poo-pooing it. It's like, oh, what a hack! I can't believe he's famous. It's like, yeah, but you haven't done anything. It's
Right.
like, at least he fucking tried something. And
Yeah.
and whether it's good or, I mean, Ed Wood, it's like, he didn't make very good movies, but I'm not going to call him a fucking hack or a loser. It's like, unfortunately, he did, he became a loser, or circumstance led him to do nothing that he wanted to do. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, at least he tried something. He did a fuck ton more than I did.
But there's also a delusion there. Like, it's very clear, seeing the movie, what he produced, and then you're reading the book about the movie and seeing the dramatization of that book, that there's a clear delusion in Tommy Wiseau's mind that he was convinced he was making a masterpiece. He was convinced that this movie could contend for Best Picture.
Sure.
That's what makes it so hypnotic, is because
Yeah.
everything is so sincere, as terrible as it is. And not only that, not only is Tommy, well, he's the one that makes it so watchable. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, there are scenes constructed that he isn't in that are unbelievably surreal.
Right.
But take him out of that movie, and I don't think it's the cult classic that it's become.
No, I think, I think the thing is that also the people who want to kind of legitimately shit on him, I don't think they understand that the love that people, I mean, I hate to say that we laugh at Tommy Wiseau, but we are. The love that the love that we feel for the movie or for him as a character, because I'm not so sure that the real Tommy Wiseau exists anymore, whoever that person is. But the person that we love and the person that we've kind of put on this pedestal as this weirdo guy that made this fucking bizarre movie, while it is genuine, it's we don't want him to do good things. Like,
Right.
I don't want him to make a good movie. I don't want him to make any more movies. Because the problem is that he is now playing this character,
Yeah.
and it becomes that self-aware stuff that is
Right,
and he doesn't understand the comedy enough to understand the self-awareness.
He's locked into something that has become inexplicably successful, and he's going to try his best to recreate that success. That's why I think you and I both have pretty big reservations about Best Fiends, the movie that Greg
yeah,
Sestero and he did together. I don't think it's out yet, but I'm very curious to see it.
Yeah.
I know that he didn't direct it. I don't even think he wrote it.
No, I don't even think he produced it. I think he's
Right,
just an actor.
but they're actors in it together, and from what I hear, it does suffer from some of what we're talking about here. It's a little bit trying to be too much self-aware of what people really enjoy about the ineptitude of the room.
Right, and I think that also, I mean, because there are other examples of that. I talk about Samurai Cop. The guy who made that movie never became famous until long after he died. And so his movies are just his attempt to make an American action movie without understanding American culture or why action movies are so popular or what makes action movies so popular. And, he's trying to write an American movie and not being an American himself. And he never understood the self-awareness part, or he would be making movies today that are just garbage. It's
Right.
kind of like, and I can't think of the guy's name, but the guy who made Birdemic.
Oh yeah,
He made a sequel that was, I'm not sorry I saw it, but it's terrible.
yeah.
And it's not the good kind of terrible. It's
Right.
not the sincerity that Birdemic is.
What does he call himself? The master of dramatic suspense or something stupid, or of romantic suspense or something.
Yeah, I can't remember, but
That guy's a kook.
He is a kook. But a lot of that is that same place that Tommy Wiseau's drawn from. The desperation to make an American movie, but also think that they are making the great American movie. But the
Oh yeah, I mean he had like grand overtures of that this is some environmental statement and all this
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And
It's like the guy on that Best of the Worst episode with the suburban
Sasquatch.
Sasquatch, yeah,
Yeah.
The behind the
Although,
scenes of that guy. I mean,
I wonder if that guy is actually that's just the biggest long game joke ever.
could be. I mean, it's smart if so.
And it could be. I mean, because you look at, they put a fucking dick on the Sasquatch. Anyway, well, we're getting off track here. I want to see that movie.
Yeah, I
real
do
bad. But anyway, no, I think that, like, Chuck Norris understood his self-awareness, and that the fact that he is just this action star. I mean, he's not Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was bigger than life, or Sylvester Stallone, who actually had quite a bit of talent, a lot more talent than people give him credit for.
Sure.
And so Chuck Norris rode the all I have to do is show up and do some roundhouse kicks and a bad one-liner, and the rest will fall into place around me. I mean, they can't all be Delta Force, but I'm not sure how good Delta Force is.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
it has an amazing theme song, but that's about it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Lee Marvin, I guess. But
That movie taught me everything I knew about terrorism as of 6th grade.
yeah, and Robert Forster is not a Middle Eastern guy.
Oh my God, he plays a Middle Eastern guy in that?
Yeah,
I had no idea.
he's Palestinian or something.
I had no idea who Robert Forster was the last time I saw that movie.
Yeah. So anyway, so there is that one, but there is such a sincerity to it that regardless if it's any good, you catch the sincerity of it, and you start like wanting to like kind of fold into the movie. It's like you start to root for Johnny, even though he's a madman and a crazy person. And it's like you want to help raise Denny, even though he's a creeper retarded.
Even though
kid.
he's like 27 years old.
He wants to watch. I mean, come on. Sure, kid. You're so nice. And it's like Chris R just wants his fucking money.
Chris R just does want his fucking money.
We're going to talk about
Oh, Chris R. I want to talk like for 30 minutes about Chris R. But there's so getting kind of back to the hypnotic nature of the room, I think another part of that really lends itself to that hypnosis is the fact that Tommy Wiseau, when he wrote the script, he wrote, I don't know how many different characters with lines, like a dozen maybe.
There's quite a few.
And they all speak in his voice.
Yeah,
Like
they
every
all
single
have the
character is
same.
written as if Tommy were going to be delivering those lines.
Yeah,
There's no separation of
right
character personality.
Although I will say though, the Me Underwears guy.
Me underwears.
Oh God, that is not Tommy Wiseau.
No, he was definitely trying to add a little something. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that guy got laid.
I think, if
That's
I
sad.
remember correctly, reading the book, that they reshot that. They reconstructed a set to shoot that scene, the Me Underwear scene, and it cost Tommy Wiseau something like $80,000 to reshoot a 2-minute scene that had absolutely no relevance to the entire movie.
Yeah, because
even if there is any
just,
relevance.
all it is for Johnny to say, "Ha ha, that's a crazy story. I get you." And it's like, whoa. I mean, like, he reacts to things that don't call for reaction. Like, if you told me that story about your underwears, I'd be like, yeah, that's great, you fucking asshole. What? Get the fuck out of my apartment.
Why are you breaking into my apartment to have sex, right?
Yeah. It's like, asshole. But, no, so I that's one thing I do want to say. So I think what you're probably going to hear in this episode is us kind of shifting back and forth between talking about things about the room and talking about the disaster artist. And
yes,
because one is absolutely dependent on the other. And I'm going to say right out of the gate, if you're listening to this and we're talking about a brand new movie that, you know, is open wide. When we release this, tomorrow will be the wide release of the Disaster
I
Artist.
think people are seeing it like last night and tonight too in some places.
Yeah, I think they've been showing a lot of early screenings, because I do think that there is some legitimate Oscar buzz.
Yeah, that's
surrounding
the
it.
word. Yep.
And which is fantastic. However, this is not going to be a movie that anybody who's never seen The Room will really understand. You know, I'm going to see it again with a friend of mine, and I told him, you know, he asked me just out of curiosity, just so he knew, you know, what he was going to pay me back for when I bought the tickets. He's like, "How many tickets did you get?" And I'm like, "Well, just 2, because I don't know who else has seen The Room, and I don't really know if I can recommend this to anybody who doesn't have some familiarity and some relatively deep familiarity."
It would be an
The
interesting perspective, because I don't feel like I can judge the merits of the Disaster Artist as a artistic effort or as a, what we quote air quote, good movie. Without, I already have so much context. I mean, I've read the book, I've seen the movie countless times. I know a lot. I mean, Tommy Wiseau, he's been a kind of a figure in my pop culture reference for a long time.
For the better part of the last decade.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just one of those things where it's like, I think people will like the movie. I don't think people will understand why people love the movie.
Yeah.
If they haven't seen The Room. Now, that doesn't say that if I were to judge it solely as a movie on its own, that's hard, because like you said, I've been married to the stories, to my knowledge, my referential knowledge of The Room, and everything that comes with that. So
I could say that when we saw the screening of of the Disaster Artist, there was a press row in front of us with a few people, and because I want to do, I got a bucket of beers. And
yeah, you literally got a bucket of beers.
I'm cracking beers watching Disaster Artist, laughing like a stupid bastard.
Oh,
throughout
we were
this
laughing
whole
hard.
thing, right?
Yeah.
And a couple of times I realized I'm laughing really loudly
Yeah,
because it's a
exactly.
funny movie. but I'm noticing that the guy in front of me, who I assume is part of some sort of press review, wasn't. And I'm thinking to myself, does he know about The Room? Has he seen The Room? Does he enjoy The Room? How is he approaching?
Well, and maybe he's not a
his
person
viewing of this movie, and maybe he's just not an outward laugher like
or at least not an outward laugher when he's seeing a movie alone.
Yeah,
I mean, because obviously he was there for his job, so he was there by himself. Although I'm not too proud to admit I go see movies by myself all the time. Sometimes I'd rather.
Yeah. Oh, I know. That's a good point too. Like maybe he's trying to put on an air of professionalism,
or maybe that's just how he is.
Or it's maybe a sense of stoicism when you are watching a movie that you're going to review,
or you're trying to break it down or something. I mean, I think that
I don't watch movies that way. At least,
no, I typically don't either.
At least not movies like this.
And the movies that we've already watched for future episodes that we've already recorded. You know, it's like we're having a good time. We're chatting about stuff, trying to figure things out and all of that stuff. But that's also, we're at home, and we also we also have been subjugated to our own excitement of things too.
Sure.
I mean, we've seen movies before that we were so. I mean, like. Well, I remember when we saw Freddy vs. Jason, we were so excited for Monster Battle.
Oh, Monster Battles, yeah.
You know, and we were so excited for and we were like legitimately enjoying ourselves. I recently watched the movie a couple of months ago for, like during Halloween season, and I'm just sitting there by myself, and I'm just like, it's like, this is still, I can still find enjoyment in it, but this is a terrible movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucking garbage. I mean, if it wasn't for, what's her face from, was she on Dawson's Creek for a little while? Anyway. The main girl in
Mika Kelly, is that her name? Is that
Monica Keener.
Monica Keener.
You had the same. You
Yeah,
had the right.
I had the MK going.
Yeah. If it wasn't for her, I'd be like, I'm out. I'm out of here. It's like I'm done with this. And I would have turned off that
Oh
the
man,
TV.
I'm in it for Jason Ritter, man.
Jeez.
Because he's a Jason, he survives.
I
He
know.
survives.
You'll get that joke in a few months, listeners. But anyway, so I don't even remember. We were talking about just enjoyment of the movies, and and it's like, yeah, you might be right that there might be professionalism or him just trying to piece together things that he's seeing so that he can review it. I that would be interesting to, what if we went to a movie like, I don't know, like Daddy's Home, something that we probably would chuckle at a couple of things, but
Sure.
overall probably not very well enjoy. How would we be able to sit in a theater and handle that if there's a lot of people around us laughing? I don't know.
Have you noticed that I haven't seen a lot of Will Ferrell movies of late, but the ones that I've caught clips of, the ones like Daddy's Home, I feel like Will Ferrell, the way he delivers lines anymore is he's like pausing for a laugh track. He
He is a Saturday Night Live guy. I kind of think
but
that
he's
Saturday Night Live guys do
he's
that.
expecting to be funny with
Sure.
everything he does, and it's really tiresome.
Well, I think some of that might just be that a lot of that there's a lot of improvisation going on now in his movies. At least with Adam Sandler, somebody wrote a shitty script.
Zippity doo.
Anyway,
Okay.
taking swipes. So anyway, now, though I will let me start by saying I have one very, very minor negative about The Disaster Artist. Overall, I love the movie. And when we walked out of the theater and we walked up to the people from the studio and who asked us for our opinion and gave us free T-shirts, that was amazing.
Yeah, I'm all for free swag.
Yeah.
I have no shame.
No, I have
send
no
me
either.
free shit.
Yeah, but they wanted us to give an opinion, and I was honest with them. It's like it was funnier than I thought it would be. It was. I think we also seemed more genuine than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, sympathetic
To
to Tommy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and Tommy might be a hell of a nice guy in general, but you don't always get that impression because he is so elusive about his history and everything, which leads me to my one negative. And now I know you've read The Disaster Artist. I've only heard stories that eventually ended up in The Disaster Artist. But the one thing I would love to see at some point, and there is a documentary that is on its way that might tell us this, but I want to know more about Tommy Wiseau.
Right.
And I know that this was a comedy, and I was very appreciative that it was a straight comedy without needing to be a gross out comedy or a dumb parody or anything like that. This was like a straightforward comedic dramatization of things that really happened. And while some of it may be very accurate, I also know some of it they probably turned up jokes for,
Yeah.
or at least turned up the storytelling.
I mean, maybe.
I don't know. I don't.
mean,
But I would love to know.
Yeah,
like,
so
it's like I would love to know more about. I know he's not from New Orleans. I know he's from Poland. But there have been stories that have kind of circulated that, because he changes his story so much. I mean, I just want to know more about who he is. I'm like captivated by the mystery of Tommy Wiseau.
Here's my thing about that. I think the mystery is what makes him so captivating. I think that
Sure.
I think the more you know, the less you'll care.
Sure.
I love the fact that that the book doesn't answer those questions. The movie doesn't answer those questions because honestly, most of them are still unknown. He won't tell anyone. I mean, it would take an investigative journalist or somebody sending a piece of, or some sort of like spy game, which is a kind of a joke for those who've read the books. But read the book. But yeah, I don't know. I want to know, but I also love the mystery of not knowing.
Yeah.
That is what kind of makes it fun for me.
I mean, and I admit that there is a fun to this person who, I mentioned that Arnold Schwarzenegger was larger than life and therefore became a larger than life star. Even to this day, if his movies aren't what they used to be, he himself seems to be a larger than life character.
Sure.
And
I think
but I think that the thing is with Tommy though is that I don't know. I know that he's been very good at switching gears about the room and selling it as a dark comedy. But I'm not sure he knew what the term dark comedy meant when he made this movie.
no.
And because of that, you get the sense that there is this very sad person behind the exterior.
Absolutely.
And that is what I want to know more about, because I kind of feel for the guy in some ways.
I think I agree. I agree that you want to know, but I don't think that story can be told because he's just they're not going to get it out of him. And I think that's what's interesting. Is
I do want
think
whatever
everything
drugs he's
relevant-
on that makes him so happy.
I think everything that's relevant about what Tommy Wiseau views the world and what is really truly going on in his mind can really be gleaned from the room. I mean, there's a great scene in The Disaster Artist where the actors are at lunch.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
The one actress mentions the fact that somebody asks, "What is this thing even about?" And one actress says, "I think something very terrible happened in Tommy's life, and this is some sort of catharsis for him. All of this, in some way, shape, or form, is something he's experienced."
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about because that was June Diane Raphael from How This Get Made.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is funny because they talked about that on that episode. I actually listened to that episode yesterday afternoon to kind of prep for this, and and it's like they talked about, and I think it was actually Greg Sestero himself who said, this is clearly something in his life.
Yes.
There was a Lisa. Whether or not there was an actual Mark or a Denny or a Johnny necessarily, but there was certainly a Lisa that affected Tommy Wiseau. And I know that there's also a story that he tells in The Disaster Artist that I think most people will say, by all accounts, is true, that he was in a very near death car accident.
A car accident, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, he was in two. He was in one when he was much younger. He got in a car with a friend of his who was driving recklessly, but he said the one that scared him the most was years later, and it was a near-death experience. And by all accounts, that's what made him re-examine his life and want to pursue acting.
Yeah.
Because had always been a dream of his, and he felt like, I only have one life to live. I have to go for it. There's something real fucking commendable about that.
Sure, absolutely. And and there have been other stories told, like how he was wrongfully arrested in France or right before he immigrated, and that it really kind of shook him up. And it's like you get the impression that there is a sad story behind that exterior of him, trying to say with the room, "Oh, you worry too much," which is always said at the exact wrong time to say something like that. It's like, it's like, "Oh, what movie are we going to go see tonight, Johnny?" "Oh, you worry too much. You plan too much." It's like, I just want to know what fucking movie we're going to. I mean, I don't want to go see. I don't want to go see a movie I don't want to see. "Oh, you worry too much." But I mean, I don't know. I mean, and again, this probably isn't the format, so it really kind of invalidates my minor criticism or my minor. I don't know. I mean, I don't. I guess complaint, not really a criticism, but I mean, James Franco. I think. I think. I don't think people truly understand how good of an actor James Franco is.
Yeah.
I mean, as Tommy Wiseau, I mean, and knowing that it's James Franco is the only reason why I knew that was James Franco.
Before we get into his performance, because I think we need to talk about that a lot, there's something that I find so fascinating about James Franco's universe. That's not the right word, but the how James Franco has actually had connections to Tommy and Greg before he even saw The Room, before The Room was even made.
Oh, I don't know anything about this.
Well, here it is. Well, the one of them is kind of tenuous. James Franco, early in his film career, played James Dean.
Okay.
He was in a biopic.
I could see
he played
that.
James Dean. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I think I know what that was. That a TV movie?
Maybe it might have been like a made-for-cable movie,
Okay.
like HBO or something.
I think I know what you're talking about. Though,
But Tommy Wiseau, huge Dean fan, massive Dean fan. Like in the movie, it's weird because Greg basically tells Tommy who James Dean is, but that's not really the case at all. Tommy was a massive fan of James Dean.
I have a
before he
feeling
met
that
Greg.
that line was inserted for the audience.
Yeah. So they did actually go together to see where he had his accident, but Tommy was well aware of James Dean and emulates him. So that, I think, was one of the reasons why Tommy was so okay also with James Franco making this movie, is because he admired him by way of James Dean. The other thing that is really fascinating is that James Dean. Greg Sestero was in his only real movie starring role besides The Room is Retro Puppet Master.
Oh yeah.
Which he made before he.
Oh, we're gonna see that someday.
Yes, which he made before The Room was even conceived of, but he knew Tommy at the time. There's some timeline issues with the movie and what actually happened, but rumor has it, Greg Sestero mentions this in his book, that James Franco actually auditioned for that role, or it was either that role or another role that Greg Sestero got. James Franco didn't get. I think it was Retro Puppet Master. And I think that's so funny to think that, 10 years later or whatever, James Franco would be making a movie about this thing.
These guys.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so much about James Franco is just himself a fascinating person. Maybe not quite on the level of Tommy Wiseau, but I mean, not too long ago, just a few months ago, for my blog, I rewatched Spider-Man 3, and he is fucking fascinating.
He's
in that
unhinged
movie.
in that movie.
Oh, but he's the best part of that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like at that point everybody had kind of given up, but like James Franco is like, "Fuck you, I'm swinging for the fences."
Yeah,
man.
I mean, he's making a fucking Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
If he wanted to ever be Harry Osborn again, it's like, dude, it's yours. Take it. It's yours, man. Or not Harry. Yeah, Harry Osborn.
Harry
yeah.
Osborn, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I enjoy James Franco in general. I know some people don't.
Yeah. He's hit or miss for me, for sure.
And he is, because I think he is himself kind of a interesting person. I don't think he's a weirdo necessarily,
Right.
but I think that he will approach things very I think what do they call that? He just stays in character. I think he's a methodic kind of a method actor.
Yes. I mean, from all accounts, he drove people crazy on the set of Disaster Artist because he directed it in character. Can you imagine? I mean, here's a couple
Well,
things.
I mean, I guess it's better than like Jared Leto, like sending you used condoms in the fucking mail.
Right, yeah. But here's a couple things, right? It's like, so Tommy, when they were making The Room, had a college student record the whole thing. Like, he actually had the making of the movie documented. I don't know where this footage is.
It's on the DVD.
Is it on the DVD?
Yes, about
I've never
20
seen
minutes
it.
on the
Oh,
DVD.
there's only 20 minutes? Oh, I mean, there's hours of
But
footage.
there are some interesting things in
Yeah,
that
I'm sure.
that I because I watched that after watching The Disaster Artist. And yeah, there's some things there that they pulled directly from that where it's
I need
like,
to see
oh,
that.
that's interesting.
Well, here's another thing I think that's funny about this. This is where we kind of get into this circular kind of dependency where you've got, all right, I want to see all of that footage. And by all accounts, Tommy took it home every night. He didn't watch dailies from The Room. He watched dailies from the making of The Room every night. And he used it to spy. He used it to spy on his cast members.
Yeah, they did show that.
And they
in
showed
the
it a little
Disaster
bit in the
Artist.
movie, yeah. But he used it to actually hear what people are saying about him. He was so paranoid. It's unreal.
I mean,
So-
I guess if you dump $6 million into something, I mean, because see, that's another thing I'm curious about Tommy, which we can talk about here in just a minute.
But my question real
yeah.
quick is, so James Franco is directing the movie about the making of The Room as Tommy Wiseau. Did he have someone record the whole process?
That would be amazing.
And if he did, holy shit, I want to see that.
Yeah, I mean, at this point now you're starting like, I mean, there are levels upon levels
Right.
here that are insane.
Yeah. So now, I mean, we could end up with like 6 or 7 things that all each exist on their own that have all been born out of this one movie.
And that might explain why I'm fairly certain we live on a parallel Earth. It created some sort of like impossible machine. It created a multiverse.
Everybody gets a slightly different version of The Room.
Yeah. There's a famous picture of like Superman splitting into like his different selves from like a multiverse being born, and it's like each one of us are like screaming in pain as different versions of The Room are created.
And at least one of these versions, James Franco actually is Tommy Wiseau. It is.
That's the same universe
And
that.
Greg Sestero is probably like Seth Rogen instead of.
That's the same universe that
That's the
Superman
Judd
is Barack
Apatow
Obama.
universe.
Oh my god, I love me some multiverse. By the way, for those people who know me really, really well, I'm a huge comic book fan, and I am like a scholar of the multiverse and DC universe. So like, you know, like when there were like things like this past week, they had the Crisis on Crisis on Earth X on the CW shows. I was like, fucking heaven. It's like, oh my god, we got Nazi versions of the heroes, and they gotta fight them. They're punching each other. It's great.
Yeah, I was gonna say that if anyone is ever suffering from insomnia, just ask Geoff to break down the Crisis of Infinite Earth for you.
I will do it. And I will make sure you stay awake, you son of a bitch. Anyway, so what I was, oh shit, I was going to say something about, oh yeah, I mean to kind of tie into my my minor complaint is, you know, I wish they would have confronted a little bit more about like that mysterious money that came from making The Room, because there's stories of like an ESL teacher that was really good friends with Tommy that I think her name is listed as a producer someplace in The Room, that I doubt that she had all of the $6 million, but there's also talk about how Tommy built like an independent, you know, wealth for himself by renting out like high-end, like, you know, like warehouses and stuff.
Well, it's Street Fashions USA.
Was his
business too, yeah. And like I think it's real mysterious. It's like knockoff Levi jeans and stuff.
It's irregular. The source that I saw was that it was what Value City used to sell, which is irregular.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so, which irregulars may not look any different or fit any differently, but for whatever reason they didn't pass inspection.
Right.
But they get sold off cheap, and you can sell them
Yeah,
at a relatively decent markup.
Yeah, they still have the Levi jeans
Yep.
logo on them. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I used many moons ago. I worked for about a month or so at Value City, and yeah, I mean, the name brands that are there, they're not getting the name brands from Levi or Lee or Adidas or whatever.
Yeah.
They're just buying the scraps that didn't pass inspection,
Right.
that don't look any different or fit any differently. It's like there's just an awkward stitch in there someplace, and that's all it is.
But
it's kind of crazy.
It's like the comment, getting back to the money, is again, I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. I mean, there's not a story to write that's known, so why make something up?
Sure.
Right? And I think that was a wise choice. Is let's not try and make bullshit up. Let's just tell what we know.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. But the whole thing with like the script director, you know, Seth Rogen's character.
Oh yeah.
I forget his name his real name, but by all accounts, he claims, for better or worse, that he directed like 80% of the movie. Which really, do you want to make that claim. But
was his name Alan Smithy?
but his comment, the inappropriate comment from the bank teller telling him that Tommy's bank account was a bottomless pit.
Yeah.
That shit is true. Like, that is an anecdote directly from the book that the script director told people on set. He was like, "Yeah, don't worry, your checks are gonna cash."
Well, I mean, I guess if there was a legitimate concern, I mean, here's a guy who's writing big checks for something that he clearly doesn't know what he's doing. And I guess
it's a
there
legitimate
was
concern, but it's a totally inappropriate thing for a bank teller to tell someone.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I mean, that's true. I guess, it's like there was some concern or some stories that circulated that he was maybe, connected to the mob or something, but nobody, that I think is just all urban legend.
Everyone was convinced to some degree that it was a money laundering scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the case at all. I just think that he was a guy who wanted to make a movie.
Well, no, it can't be a money laundering scheme because a money laundering scheme only works if you're inflating costs. He was actually spending this money.
Right. In the end, I think while you're in the middle of it, you're curious about what's going on. But in the end result, I mean, yeah, that's how much money he did buy the equipment. He did buy 2 different cameras. He, things that normal production companies save money by not doing.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah. That's, oh man, I mean, it's insane too because he had an actually really competent crew for that movie to begin with. Like the director of photography was a pretty well respected DP. The crew respected that DP a lot, and it was revolt on the set. That's something they don't talk about in the movie either. Like he actually finished the bulk of that movie with a film college USC film student crew, right? The director of photography that I think most people blame for all of the focus issues had never shot a film before. And more or less, I mean, imagine having to shoot a film that's lit for 35 millimeter and HD, and it's your very first movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's insanity.
Yeah, it's also, from what I understand, it's like a lot of the reason for ADR was that the sound person was like the first movie that they had ever made or anything like that.
And Paul Scheer, the character Paul Scheer plays, I'm pretty sure is supposed to be the original DP, but that guy quit, man. He quit because they didn't have a line producer. Greg Sestero was the line producer and a lead actor, which is
interesting because
impossible.
Also there's the which I don't know what a line producer does, but they
make sure everyone gets paid, and make sure make sure all the money is getting to everybody, and everything that needs to be purchased is getting purchased.
Well, I know he had said
they buy lunch.
Yeah,
he
did say that one day he's like going out to get lunch for people, and the next. He comes back. It's like, hey, Greg, we need you on set because you're in the scene. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't know.
Imagine anything that has to be purchased to be used in the movie. They're responsible for.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is for something that people don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And an actor who doesn't have producer. I mean, they don't know. I mean, unless they are actually like. Start producing things. An actor is not going to necessarily know how to pay the people. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
Another thing too, and I don't know. I don't want to get too bogged down in the differences between the movie and get bogged down between the differences in the movie and the book. But there are also weird things like the fact that Greg Sestero actually told Tommy the first time he read the script that it was terrible. and wasn't actually going to be in the movie. He's like, I'll be your line producer. I know you want to get this made. You're my friend. You helped me out. I'll help you get this movie made, but I don't want to be in it. Tommy paid him some ridiculous amount of money to star in the movie at the last minute, and they had to fire the guy on the first day of shooting who was going to play.
Well, from what I understand,
Mark.
that he hired 2 people for every part or something.
No, not really. It was just what's his face, the Mark character. He fired him and also not Juliet but the other woman, the other lead.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay.
The Juliet's friend who is very concerned about her cheating on Johnny. Those 2 characters,
the one that was making out with me underwears.
Yeah, those 2 characters were shit canned on the first day, because Tommy had finally convinced Greg to play the role of Mark. And that he did this whole like finagle bullshit of, well, the producers want to see Mark for another thing, So we're going to shoot Mark and you in the same scene. And then he was like throughout the whole day was kind of manufacturing reasons why he didn't like this other guy. And eventually it became pretty clear what was going on. And there was kind of a dust up, and he fired him. And a woman, Michelle, I think was her name, the character's name.
Oh, the character's name is Michelle, yeah.
She had been basically like they had started a relationship.
Nice.
And he knew that, so he got rid of both of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and recast her role. Yeah.
That's one of the things about The Room. It's like the relationships between people are so awkward too, because like Michelle, the character Michelle is, I guess, Lisa's friend.
Yeah. But how do they know each other? Like
we don't know anything other than they're friends.
Right. Is she?
But
yeah, she Johnny's friend. Like whose friend is she really?
Well, I don't know, because like Lisa feels pretty comfortable enough saying it's like, yeah, I'm banging, Mark or whatever, Johnny's best friend.
Well, yeah, and Lisa is in the script 22 to 27 years old, and they've known each other. They've been dating for I think at least 5 years or something like that.
Well, he tells a story of 7 years ago that she helped him get dinner or something.
So
he was new in the
yeah,
country.
so yeah, that's right. So she was either 15,
sweet,
or 22.
I'm gonna say that I know that Julia Danielle, the actress, who this is one of those things about watching that movie and becoming so engrossed in it. It's like I'm really into her.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like what do you want me to do?
And all, right?
Yeah, that was weird.
Yes.
But no, it's like she is actually maybe the most successfully portrayed character in the movie, because like Johnny, you have to be told he's so great. Mark is kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But like she wants to fuck Mark. I believe it.
Here's the thing.
I'd do it.
Yeah. Here's the thing that's interesting about her is you're absolutely right. She's, I think, one of the only people who, I mean, a lot of the other actors on the set were professional. They did what they were told. They delivered their lines. The actress who played the old lady, Juliet's mom, not Juliet's mom, Lisa's mom.
Yeah.
She was very professional. I mean, there were days where it was like 100 degrees on set, and she fainted on set, but then went right back to work. I mean, she was like, these are professional actors there to do a job, but they were also actors who thought this was going to be their big break. They were getting film time. They were getting a reel that they thought they could get them to bigger and better roles. And that's one of the more tragic things about this is that that they are infamous now.
Yeah,
and it's not really their fault.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, it's like if you look at the credits for Julia Danielle, it's like it's a bunch of like they hired her because she's Lisa, not because she actually is an actor. And you feel bad for that type of situation. And it's not like when you watch an asylum movie, one of the many asylum movies that one of the dads from My Two Dads was the other guy, not Paul Reiser, the other one.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, yeah, you had your chance. Now you get to be in these shitty movies. No, these are people who are in shitty movies because they're in the most famous shitty movie of all time.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's
which is interesting. It's like, all right, well, it's already like a 1 in a million of a million chance that you're gonna make a career of it in Hollywood, right? So
and now you're in the most famous.
So maybe she got more roles than she ever was gonna get.
Maybe.
But by all accounts, she was willing to do what she had to do. I mean,
even get naked, which you feel bad about because it's like that's so uncomfortable.
I mean, she was humiliated on set by Tommy multiple times. She had to do multiple sex scenes with him.
Yeah. The look on your face is great.
She had to endure her belly button being penetrated by his sock dick. I mean,
that is one of the funniest parts of the Disaster Artist when James Franco walks. Okay, so for those of you who haven't seen The Room, there are 3 sex scenes in the first 26 minutes, and they are long.
They are really long,
and they're uncomfortable.
Well, they got to play the whole song.
Yeah, and and it's like this poor girl. I mean, okay, so her sex scene with Mark, you feel better for because Greg Sestero is a good-looking guy. But Tommy Wiseau is this weird kind of like sinewy kind of like very wiry kind of monster
looks
guy.
like
He looks like Pumpkinhead.
He looks like if you took all the Universal monsters and made one monster,
One super monster
to rule them all.
Yeah.
That's what Tommy Wiseau looks like.
Hey, Universal, there you go. Dark Universe, you got one for free.
Yes, reboot.
But no, so and it's like the sex scene is awkward. It's weird. The poor girl's topless through the whole thing, and it's like, I mean,
Really unflattering clothes she's given to wear.
oh, that red dress is sexy.
Ankles. I mean, it's
It's all awkward.
the whole movie
mean-
set her up to look ridiculous.
Yes, which is funny because she is the villain,
Yeah.
which is kind of subconsciously like, okay, yeah, I guess that all pans out. But so yeah, that's just so.
And the way that her character is written, her arc is so fragmented. Like there's in the beginning, it's almost like she's kind of, naturally falling out of love with Johnny, and then she all of a sudden turns into this manipulator, and then becomes very vindictive.
Yeah.
And she goes through these really weird spikes. It's almost like she has a mental illness. But
She's definitely bipolar.
But if you look at each one of those individual performances, she's actually not bad. Even
she's
delivering
she's
this
taking what she has.
asinine dialogue.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
she is.
She emotes well.
She
I guess
does.
is what I'm trying to get at.
And she is very selfish, and she puts on this pouty look, and and it's like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna give you a pass, mostly because I feel bad for you. They had to be naked in bed with the fucking super
Universal
monster.
super monster. You heard it here first, folks.
I'm gonna make a poster.
Somebody just needs to seriously need to take the Universal monster like photographs and just overlay them on top of each other and morph it and see what you get. That's Tommy
It's
Wiseau.
Tommy Wiseau naked. But in the Disaster Artist, they're about to film that scene, and in walks James Franco, like looking butt ass naked, basically, and you see he's got like a fucking dick sock.
The dick sock,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's hilarious because he's just like walking around, like nothing's wrong. It's just hilarious. I like cock socks are funny.
Yes, they are. That's a weird thing. Like, I've always wondered about that. Do they actually use a cock sock, or what do they use?
Oftentimes, there's usually what they call a modesty underwear
I know
of
the
some
women.
sort.
I know the women wear like a really like thin sort of like flesh colored bikini bottom or something like that.
Yeah, if they're not showing their ass, they will.
Yeah.
I think for like
Or
breast,
almost
if
like
they're
a
showing-
flesh tone merkin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and merkin. That's a funny word.
It's like a reverse merkin.
Yeah. But
Negative merkin.
yeah, and I know for like their breasts, they'll have like a flesh colored tape.
Sure, yeah.
That they can show side boob but not show anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like, yeah, there's all sorts, and I think they call that like modesty underwear, or something like that.
Movie magic, folks.
We're breaking down the movie magic. We are the James Randi of movie magic. Merkins.
Merkins.
That's the secret to Hollywood.
Look that one up, kids. All right, so we should probably talk about Chris R.
Yeah, so Chris R. in the room is a character who shows up for the sake of conflict. He is a drug dealer
Yeah.
who wants his fucking money.
He wants fucking money.
from Denny.
Yeah.
So Denny, okay.
I gotta start with, I think I'm probably not alone in this, but Chris R is one of my favorite characters in the room.
Oh, he is so intense.
Yeah. And there's a really funny story behind that, because he in the movie The Disaster Artist, it's perfect. They use Zac Efron plays Chris R, and it is brilliance. And he's a very method. He's totally into his character. He's on.
He's
set.
like even scary on set.
He's on set scary. Like, he is Chris R on set. But apparently, from the book, he was the same way. I mean, that's really how he was on set, and he never acted in a movie before. He was a friend of the original actor who was to play Mark.
Oh my
before he
God.
got canned, right? So they shot one of the very first scenes they shot was the Chris R scene, but in the alleyway,
Yes.
which is what they show in the Disaster Artist movie.
Right, and it is the deleted scene on the DVD for The Room.
And they but then after they changed some characters around, with the casting, they ended up reshooting that scene, and because Tommy wanted to be, big tough scene where Mark and him come in and save the day and defeat Chris R. They wanted to really up the ante on that. And what's funny about that too is because they had to actually convince that actor to come back, because he had gone on with his business. He was like, I have a job. I'm not really an actor. He's very successful. I think like an accountant or something. And,
Which is funny because he looks like a drug dealer.
Yeah, and he's huge.
Yeah,
he's a massively imposing man.
Yeah, it's like I'd be like, it's like, I want my fucking money for doing your fucking taxes. It's like, whoa, buddy, dial it back a little bit.
But they do. They are able to entice him to come back because he thinks maybe he'll get some more speaky lines, but that doesn't happen.
It's just the same lines. It's the exact same scene.
It is. But it's so I of all the scenes in the room, the scene as shot on the roof with Chris
God.
R and Lisa and Tommy and
her
Lisa's
mother.
mother, it is unbelievable.
It is the Oscar clip of the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, because at this point, it's like, okay, so what's The Room about? I don't know. But I know what's in it. There's relationship stuff. There's romance. There's conflict. There's a friendship falling apart. There's a relationship falling apart. There's cancer.
Yes.
Fucking cancer is in this movie.
Yes.
For just the scene. It
Just
makes a
one scene.
cameo.
Yeah, breast cancer makes a cameo in this movie.
It's about finances. It's about high doggy.
Yeah.
It's about
not getting my promotion.
It's not. It's about computers being too hard to get into. It's about me underwears. It's about chocolate being the next best thing to sex. But then it's also about a retarded drug addict.
Yeah.
Which comes out of nowhere.
It comes out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
there's
Denny-
nothing to indicate that Denny is a drug addict either.
It's more obvious that he's retarded.
Yeah.
I mean, which is actually, that is what the intention was, if I understand correctly, that Denny was meant to be, at the very least, slow, quote unquote, but actually meant to be handicapped.
They probably should have told the actor that then.
Well, I think they ended up dialing that back.
Yeah.
Because I think somebody maybe gotten into Tommy Wiseau's ear. It's like, you need to not do this.
By all accounts, that actor had the most miserable experience on set from the standpoint of he's a 27-year-old man playing like maybe a 15-year-old boy.
But the thing is,
he
though,
had no idea what he was doing in the movie.
Well, the thing is that also it's like, I'm not sure that he's 15, because I thought at one point they talk about that
Going
Tommy's
to college,
paying
maybe.
to college.
Yeah, he's paying for his college. Yeah, college kid then, I guess. I don't know.
Well, he loves Lisa, but he also loves this other girl that we don't meet.
Love is blind.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's right. He's like, you know what? You're right. I don't love Lisa. I actually love my girlfriend. It's stupid. But yes, the scene on the roof with Chris R. It's amazing because this I think is one of my favorite lines in the movie too, and it's off screen. You don't see Tommy say it, but after they burst out of the shack on the roof,
the impossible shack
that they both had to come out of separately because there wasn't enough room in it for them to both come out at the same time.
There's no way that thing should exist, because if you go down the stairs, you should fall off the building.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway,
so they burst out. They tackle Chris R. His gun is knocked away. Tommy originally wanted that gun to like fly off the roof, but he was talked down on that. He was like, "Look, that's actually a lot more complicated than it looks, especially with the green screen set." They're like, "No, we're not going to do that."
Also, that there's the roof has a ledge.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but
I'm just talking about semantics.
They grab. They're Tommy and Greg are not Chris R size. I mean, they are several inches shorter than Chris R. And
They are. I think it's safe to say that they are at least a third.
Yeah,
Of Chris
a third
R.
of
each.
Chris R. each.
Yeah.
And they grab him by each arm, and they lead him down the stairs. And off screen, you don't see Tommy say it. You don't see his lips move on this, but he says, "Let's take him to jail."
Yes, they're going to take him straight to jail.
It's gonna take him straight to jail.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And they show up.
Do not pass go.
And then, meanwhile, then you have Lisa's mom, and Denny in this amazingly confrontational scene of just pure emotion.
Right. Basically, it's like, what did he want his money for? And yeah, it's like Lisa's like actually crying a little
Yeah.
bit. It's like actually
Yeah.
it's kind of touching.
It is kind of touching. She's giving it her all.
She is in it.
She is totally giving it all. And
Yeah.
5 minutes later, Tommy shows up.
Yeah. It's like the jail is right downstairs. Apparently.
They're holding him in their bathroom.
Yeah.
Chris R is in their bathroom.
Yeah. Probably doing like pull-ups.
Yeah,
in the shower.
on the shower
Yeah.
curtain rod. Yeah.
No, Chris R is just one of the many things that makes The Room very special. I think. I mean, it's there's no reason to have that subplot, but
Yeah.
it's because this is such a slice of life movie, which I don't think Tommy Wiseau understands what slice of life is. Nor does he actually live a life. I think he lives in a fantasy world.
He lives on Tommy's world.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, he does.
that's where he lives.
Oh my god,
He lives
that
on
was
his own
great.
planet.
I almost took that instead of our shirt.
Instead of the shirt.
Yeah. Anyway, there's like a little pencil topper that says Tommy's
With the
World. It's
Tommy's
great.
World globe.
So I mean, no, it's such a. There's almost everything can be summed up with either saying, for some reason, X happens, or for no reason at all, Y happens. You know? And that's The Room in a nutshell.
I mean, right down to the name of the character, Chris-R. And the actor asks, "What is this -R? Like, what is that my last name?" And Tommy had no answer for him. He's like, "You Chris R."
Yeah,
It's a good name. Okay, I'm Chris R.
I mean, I kind of get it. It's like, you know, it's like I think Tommy probably at some point heard some sort of street thug name.
Yeah,
that
you're
is
so right.
That was probably something like I don't know,
like J Dog or something.
J Dog or Thuggity X.
Yeah,
You know, or something. And it's like, oh, Chris R.
Chris
sounds
R.
good.
That sounds good.
Yeah, you thought of everything. Good thinking.
Good thinking.
And he just typed it, and it never changed because he only wrote like a half a draft.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, I mean, Chris R is just fantastic, and Zac Efron. Wow, I mean that guy, for such a guy that 10 years ago you would have said you think this guy is hilarious. I would have been like,
Yeah.
go fuck yourself.
Right.
No way. And he is. He is
He's-
fantastic.
He's really funny.
And when you see him in this movie, it's just, I mean, him.
I
comparing-
almost feel bad like spoiling it because there's a moment when you look at him and you realize, oh, that's Chris R. And then you look a little closer, like, oh my God, it's Zac Efron.
And just the whole scene of them filming that scene in the alleyway, it's just so wonderful and special.
It truly is.
I mean, so it's just another reason, you know, just that everything about this movie is so meticulously perfect. Yeah,
In its imperfection.
No,
Or of the disaster
The
artist,
disaster
I'm sorry.
artist is meticulously perfect in its perfection.
Yes.
The Room is meticulously imperfect in its fucking bonkers bananas world that it lives in. Yeah.
It's so true.
So I'm not sure what else there is to say. I mean, clearly we love The Disaster Artist.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it's hilarious. It's funny. James Franco is amazing. And if you don't like James Franco, if you don't like The Room, or you don't like things that are good, then don't see it. But if you have an affinity for The Room, if you are fascinated, as most people are who watch that with these stories with Tommy Wiseau and with, you know, the whole bananas background of his making this insane movie, see it. I mean, I would be disappointed if, at the very least, the script doesn't get nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, I think probably right. I would best adapted screenplay.
Yeah.
I think it's almost a shoe-in for that, at least as a nomination.
Yeah, I mean, as of earlier today, it was running at 95% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
I mean, that should stand for an opportunity to show up in discussions for like critics awards,
Critics
for
Awards.
The Golden Globes at the very least.
I mean, I can't imagine it not being nominated for Best Comedy or Musical and Golden Globes. Probably,
and there's 9 or 10
probably
Best
James
Picture
Franco.
opportunities.
I think James Franco is going to probably get some Best Actor nominations.
He's already been nominated once. He's hosted the Oscars. I think Hollywood likes him.
Yeah.
And I think that they understand his love for the subject matter.
I really think that it would be amazingly fitting as a perfect circle of Tommy Wiseau in the room if this movie wins an Academy Award.
Oh, yeah.
Because you know Tommy Wiseau will be there.
Oh, James
it's
Franco. That's going to be
nominated.
his +1.
Yeah.
That's going to be
And it has to
Franco's
be. And,
+1.
And this is a little sappy, but I'm getting a little teary-eyed at the prospect of this. I mean, this is sort of like that would be the culmination of Tommy's American dream.
Oh, yeah, it would be. I mean, and I think that is. I think you just hit on the head exactly the underlying story here, is that this is a story of making the American dream come true. And, you know, in a world that isn't very kind right now, you know, that's something to be celebrated, that if anybody can get their dream to come true. I mean, you know, it's like we're talking into a couple of microphones, but we're doing this for fun, and we have the capability of doing that. This is not a lofty goal of making the great American movie or having the great American podcast or whatever. This is just, you know, this is us doing something we want to do and that we like to do. For other people like Tommy Wiseau, his dream, the things that he wanted to do and wanted to be a part of, was making movies. And if he ends up getting to go to an Academy Awards, I mean, mission accomplished.
And to see going to an Academy Awards, and to see
he's going to be on that stage.
He's going to be, and to see his movie in any way, shape, or form, even if it's not really his movie, win Academy Award, I mean, that's must see TV for me. Is
Kimmel hosting again?
I'm not sure.
I assume he is, because it's ABC and everything's becoming corporatized as far as. I mean,
I don't know. I don't usually know who's hosting Academy Awards until like the day before, because the promos are out of those.
I will assume that it's Jimmy Kimmel, and I can't believe that Jimmy Kimmel will not put Tommy Wiseau on TV.
Oh, that'll happen. that'll happen.
Especially with the story that they could tell around it and the joke that they could tell from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, any joke. Insert joke here. Tommy Wiseau is here at the Oscars. Donald Trump is president. I mean, it writes itself, people. Fucking give me a job. I could be the next Bruce Valanche.
I was going to say, you're gonna mention that crazy Bruce guy? That dude is a character, man. Holy smokes.
He's one of the writers on the Star Wars holiday
It's
special.
Bruce. Is he really?
Yes, he is.
Holy fuck, I didn't know that.
Makes sense now that you think about it.
Well, I learned something today. That does make sense.
So, I mean, I think we can both agree this is probably a 5-star.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't wait to see this again. I really can. I'm rereading the book, The Disaster Artist, and I'm fascinated to see the movie again in that context, and then go back and watch the movie again. I mean,
yeah, I watched the movie again to prepare for this.
All three of these things are just, they're so entertaining in their own right, but yet all that same thing. And that is, I think, what's so wonderful about it is you can be entertained in different ways and in different formats by the same damn thing.
It's Crisis on Infinite Tommies.
Perfect. We should end it there.
I'm
getting sleepy.
Well, you see on Earth C, that's where the animal version of Tommy. So anyway, yeah. So I think we're gonna wrap up here. See The Disaster Artist. If you haven't seen The Room in a while, watch it again. I think you'd be surprised how utterly rewatchable that movie is.
Yeah, it's surprising.
I could revisit that movie every week.
I notice a fuck up in that movie every time I see it, and a new one, like a new one. I'm sorry to rephrase, a new one, and that I think is what's interesting too. Is not to delay the conclusion here of our show, but the movie is so beautifully inept that there are things that are wrong with it that you will notice on subsequent viewings that you didn't notice before. You can't possibly notice every hilarious gaffe in this movie until you've seen it several times, unless you're watching it in the most boring way possible, which is to look for all the gaffes. Which don't do that. Watch the movie
and immerse
Let
yourself.
it wash over you. Yeah.
Let it take you into that sweet, sweet hypnotic trance.
Yes.
Of wanting to be part of that world.
Exactly.
And this movie is our generation's Rocky Horror for a different reason. Rocky Horror, people watch that for the fact that it's a good movie and it's got songs that you can enjoy, and it's got crazy bananas characters and bonkers portrayals, but people will watch that movie looking at things in the background that they haven't seen. But
that movie
with
kind
The
of
Room,
defined camp, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
But in the forefront, when you're watching something like The Room, you're looking in the background again for different things, but also it's that same idea of, it's like when you go into a theater for a screening of Rocky Horror or The Room or whatever the case may be, you're in there with people that, they're all going through the same thing you're going through, and that's what makes this special.
I will say one thing, not to be a downer on that, but I do feel like some of the audience participation things that have kind of evolved for The Room feel forced to me. Like I don't know, some of the call-in.
I think that was some of the people.
Some of the call and response stuff is just. I've been to a couple like screenings like that, and those call and responses are like on the internet, and people really like they feel like we've got to make this a thing. This is a script for this movie that we have to call out. Fuck that noise.
Everybody fucking thinks they're on the satellite of love.
Yeah,
that's the
fuck
problem.
that noise. Like with the exception of
the only thing is we know that we are funny. Everybody else can go fuck themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. My
who's
feeling,
laughing at their own jokes.
My feeling on this is, and that's actually true too, is if you see this in the theater, don't get caught up in what you're supposed to do.
I didn't do anything.
I didn't either.
I just let it take it.
Spoon. That's a thing if you don't know, but yeah, I mean, make your own comments with your buddies.
Yeah, we did that. And we had a good time.
And we're way funnier than those fuckers.
We think we are.
We think we are.
You guys probably fucking hate us.
Yeah.
But anyway, so go see The Room again. Go see The Disaster Artist. Support this movie. I mean, I think it's worthy of it. I think this is a movie that, it's made independently, but I think it is art on a different level and on a different way.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, there's one great Judd Apatow cameo.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's great cameos all over.
Yeah, there are.
I mean, there are. You don't have to go any further than the final scene where everybody is now together in the auditorium watching this movie.
Yeah.
And you see everybody. I mean, from Jason Mantzoukas to Hannibal Buress to.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody.
That's one thing we haven't really talked about. Sorry again, but the recreations of actual scenes for the movie. That's
watch all the way through.
Itself.
Watch all the way through the credits because you'll get treated to side-by-side comparisons, which sometimes some of the inflections and some of the timing is impeccable.
It's eerie, yeah.
And stay until after the credits.
Yep.
Because you get a very special cameo.
Yeah,
at the end.
yeah, the contractually obliged cameo, and I won't tell you any more than that.
But it's pretty fantastic, and I think that we're going to be rooting for it to hit some awards.
Yeah,
I think.
for sure.
I mean, sure. It's not going to be common that we're going to talk about award-winning movies on this show. So, not that we're going to talk about only bad movies, but this is something special. And
yeah,
I think the people.
agreed.
This is why we wanted to make this our first episode.
Yep. Perfect.
So, perfect.
Perfect.
Another inside joke, guys, sorry. So anyway, you can find new episodes every other Wednesday on filmseizure.com. You can post comments there. You can post comments on our Facebook page, which is Film Seizure. We have an Instagram account, which I'm slowly trying to figure out how to use.
Yeah,
it's really hard when you can only put pictures.
I'm so social media inept. I use Facebook like a.
It's like, how do I record my farts to put on this
Yeah.
Instagram?
I
It doesn't
think,
work
I
that way.
think I've tweeted 10 things in 10 years or something, or however long Twitter's been around.
Yeah, we do have a
But
Twitter
we're gonna
account.
try. We're gonna
these
try and
things.
do these things because why not?
Because we want people to join in on
Yeah.
the conversation. We also have. I did start a Tumblr page.
Oh,
You
sure.
can just
Why
find
not?
it.
Just-
Why not?
we'll try
That's
that
easier
out.
to use. So you can follow these things. Just look for Film Seizure. We also have an email, filmseizure@gmail.com. Please feel free to send comments, your thoughts, your opinions. I mean, I guess if you want to say that I suck, I guess. I guess.
Keep that in the email. Keep that shit off the interwebs, people. We need to be kind.
Yeah, we need. Let's make the internet great again.
Yes.
Let's all be kind to each other. Let's
Yes.
stop being fuckheads.
Let's bring the constructive back to criticism, shall we?
Or don't criticize
Or
us
don't
at all.
criticize it at all. Because we're perfect and we don't need
We're
it.
great. We are the Tommy Wiseau.
And honestly, what I really want to hear from you is your thoughts on the movies that we talk about.
Absolutely.
I want to have those conversations beyond the
particularly,
podcast.
and particularly like memories of
Yeah.
things, because we are going to talk about things that we saw when we were kids. Talk about things that you like. If you have suggestions for things
Yeah,
you'd like us
let's definitely.
to do, we definitely like to hear that. But in the in-between time, you will find other material on the website. In fact, since this is kind of our opening week of stuff, I've got about 1,000 words that I have to say about the Justice League coming up on Saturday.
Ooh, that should be a good read.
It's all right.
It's all right.
It's all right. It's all right. It's about 1,100 words, but I tried.
I'm going to criticize it kindly and constructively.
I did.
I said I'm going to
Oh,
criticize your criticism.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Feel free to. But we'll both have things that we'll put out there. You can catch me also at bmovieenema.com. I am currently on a little bit of a hiatus there, but got big plans for the future when that hiatus ends. So, you want to take us out?
So that's it. That's episode 1. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you see the movies that we talked about and tell us what you think on the various social media outlets. I appreciate anyone who's listening, and I guess we'll see you again soon. I'm Jason Oliver.
I'm Jeff Arbuckle.
You are my rose, you are my rose, you are my rose. You are my rose, you are my rose, you are my rose. You are my rose, you are my rose, you are my rose.
It seems to me like you're an expert, Mark.
No, definitely not an expert, Johnny.